Welcome. We're here with members of the Groton Town and Groton City Complete Count Committee for the 2020 census. I'd like to take a moment and introduce the committee members that are here with us tonight. Keith Hedrick, Mayor of Groton City. Liz Porter, who is the chair of the Groton Complete Count Committee and Board of Ed member for Groton. And my name is Nikki Gullickson. I also serve on the Groton Complete Count Committee. Our purpose is to provide useful information to our viewers regarding the upcoming decennial 2020 census. In this program, we hope to discuss the 2020 census, the role of the Complete Count Committee, as well as address how people will participate in the census. We hope to put people's minds at ease regarding the safety of responding. We'll explain how easy it is to respond to the census, and most importantly, we'll stress how important it is to our community over the next 10 years that everyone is counted in this 2020 census. Throughout the program, you will hear the date April 1st, 2020, otherwise known as Census Day. This is a key reference date for the 2020 census. When completing the census, you will include everyone living at your address as of April 1st, 2020. This is going to be an important day for Groton, for the state, for people across the country. So we expect that April 1st, 2020 Census Day will be celebrated with various events across the country. So let's get started. Let's start with, what is a Complete Count Committee?
Okay, so the Complete Count Committee is a group of government, community leaders, and volunteers that have been brought together to design, plan, and initiate outreach efforts that will raise awareness for the 2020 census. And we are hoping to motivate all of you to respond. Our Groton Committee is one of many across southeastern Connecticut, the state, and the country. The last decennial census was conducted in 2010. At that time, Groton was undercounted by 20 to 30%. Our goal is to be sure that everyone is counted in 2020.
Liz, can you explain a bit more about the role of the Complete Count Committee?
Sure. The Complete Count Committee plays a role in developing partnerships to educate and motivate residents to participate in the 2020 census. The primary goal of the Complete Count Committee is to make sure that everyone is counted once, only once, and in the right place. The Groton Town Committee has been meeting since September. We have been working with local businesses, municipal agencies, and the school system to develop and coordinate information and resources throughout the community. We can't stress enough how critical it is that our residents know how important participating in the 2020 census is to our community. While the Complete Count Committee is working hard to increase local awareness about the ease, safety, and importance of the 2020 census, our committee members cannot tell residents how to respond or help them with their responses.
The committee wants everyone to know that the 2020 census is safe, it's easy, and it's very important. This is a message you're going to hear throughout the rest of this program. So Keith, what is the census?
The U.S. Census counts every person living in the 50 United States, District of Columbia, and the 5 U.S. territories: Puerto Rico, American Samoa, the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. The count is mandated by Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution and is conducted by the U.S. Census Bureau, a nonpartisan government agency. It has been conducted every 10 years since 1790. In 1790, Thomas Jefferson was the director of the first census. In 1790, they only needed 650 enumerators to count 3.9 million residents in the 13 states. At the time, New York City was the largest urban place with 33,000 people. 220 years later, the population of the United States on April 1st of 2010 was 308,745,538, and with a population of 8,175,133, New York City was the most populous U.S. city. The census is safe, it is easy, and it is important.
Liz, why is the census so important to the town, the state, and the country?
Well, census data and results shape the future for communities. Census data informs how billions of dollars in federal funds are distributed for health clinics, school lunch programs, disaster recovery initiatives, and other critical programs and services for the next 10 years. Census data determines the number of seats each state has in the U.S. House of Representatives. It defines congressional and state legislative districts, school districts, and voting precincts. It determines the annual allocation of $675 billion in federal funding. To that end, in the fiscal year of 2016, $10.7 billion was allocated to the state of Connecticut by 55 different federal spending agencies. That money impacted Medicaid, SNAP, highway planning, Section 8 housing, special education grants, SCHIP, Title I grants, national school lunch programs, WIC, Head Start, foster care, and health center programs. Census data provides insight to local, state, and federal government, as well as business and community planning groups for future planning purposes. It also provides population benchmarks for nearly every other United States survey.
You mentioned that Groton was undercounted in the 2010 census. Can you explain how that undercounting impacts Groton?
As we said, based on the count results of the 2010 census, Connecticut received approximately $10.7 billion from 55 federal funding programs. Groton was undercounted by 20 to 30% in the 2010 census, and as a result, Groton has been underfunded in the distribution of those funds. The town and city could lose approximately $2,900 from federal funding programs every year for every person that is not counted. This means if just 35 people aren't counted in this upcoming census, we could lose $101,500 a year for the next 10 years, or approximately $1 million. And that's missing just 35 people in our count. Imagine what that looks like if we're undercounted by, say, 7,000 people. That is missing out on approximately $20 million a year, or $203 million over the next 10 years. So it is important that we count everyone in the 2020 census.
At this time, we're going to show you a public service announcement courtesy of the U.S. Census Bureau. How will the 2020 census data be used?
"2020 census data be used? Where there are more people, there are more needs for public services. That's why the census is used by the government to inform funding decisions each year. But that's not all. It's also used by nonprofits to inform services by businesses to create jobs, and even by students for school projects. Understanding how the population changes helps us shape communities across the country for the better. Shape your future. Start here. Visit 2020census.gov.
And we're back. Let's talk about safety and the census. What happens to the responses that households submit?
So when you respond to the census, your answers are kept anonymous. The answers you provide are only used to produce statistics. The Census Bureau is not permitted to publicly release your responses in any way that could identify you or anyone else in your home. The Census Bureau is bound by Title 13 of the U.S. Code to keep your information confidential. Under Title 13, the Census Bureau cannot release any identifiable information about you, your home, or your business, even to law enforcement agencies. The law ensures that your private data is protected and that your answers cannot be used against you by any government agency or court.
From the beginning of the data collection process, the Census Bureau follows industry best practices and federal requirements to protect your data. The security of the Census Bureau systems is a top priority, and their IT infrastructure is designed to defend against and contain cyber threats. They continually refine their approach to identifying, preventing, detecting, and responding to these threats. Responses are encrypted and personal information is scrubbed so that only numbers are produced.
How are people going to be able to tell the difference between real census materials and a scam?
It is important to know that the Census Bureau will not send unsolicited emails to request your participation in the 2020 census. The census will never ask you for your Social Security number, money or donations, anything on behalf of a political party, your bank or credit card account numbers. And if a census taker does visit your home to collect a response for the 2020 census, you can verify their identity by checking to make sure they have a valid ID badge with their photograph, a U.S. Department of Commerce watermark, and an expiration date.
If you have any questions about their identity, you can call 800-923-8282 to speak with a local Census Bureau representative.
And I see we have that number displayed at the bottom of your screen. And at this time, to sort of reiterate the safety of your data, we're going to go to a public service announcement, again from the U.S. Bureau. Is my 2020 census data safe?
Is my 2020 census data safe? After sending your census response, your personal information is kept safe. By law, it can't be shared with any other government agency, law enforcement, or landlord. No one. So take your 2020 census with peace of mind. Shape your future. Start here. Visit 2020census.gov.
Keith, who is required to participate in the census?
First of all, a notification of the census will be sent to the address, not any individual living there. One person from the address should complete the census for each household. That person needs to count everyone who is living there as of April 1st, 2020, Census Day. That means everyone who is living and sleeping there most of the time. If you're filling out the census for your home, you should count everyone who is living there as of April 1st, 2020. This includes any friends or family members who are living and sleeping there most of the time. If someone is staying in your home on April 1st and has no usual home elsewhere, you should count them in your response to the 2020 census. Please also be sure to count roommates, young children, newborns, and anyone who is renting a space in your home. These people are often missed in the census. This means they can miss out on resources for themselves and their communities over the next 10 years.
It's important to remember to count any children who are living with you. This includes all children who live in your home, including foster children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews, and the children of friends if they are staying with you temporarily. Children who split their time between homes. If they are living with you on April 1st, 2020, you should count them in your count. Newborn babies, even those who are born on April 1st, 2020, or who are still in the hospital on this date, also should be a part of your count.
So let's go for a little bit more clarification in terms of participation. A baby born on April 1st, 2020 is counted.
Yes, absolutely. Babies born on April 1st, 2020 should be counted as part of the household he or she will live in or sleep in the most of the time, even if they're still in the hospital. Babies born after April 1st, 2020 should not be counted in the 2020 census. It's important to mention that children under the age of 5 are one of the most undercounted groups, and that impacts funding available for schools, childcare, and other resources. Remember, each child counted on April 1st, 2020 represents approximately $29,000 in funding over the next 10 years that our community receives for school programming, lunch programs, after-school programs, Head Start, childcare, foster care, and healthcare centers.
What about shared custody of children?
Shared custody. If a child's time is divided between more than one home, count them where they stay most of the time. Now, if their time is evenly divided between homes, or you're not sure where they stay most often, count them where they are staying on April 1st, 2020.
What about people other than my immediate family who are living with me?
Again, remember, one person should complete the census for each household. That person should count everyone who is living there on April 1st, 2020. That means everyone who is living and sleeping there most of the time. If you're filling out the census for your home, you should count everyone who is living there as of April 1st, 2020. This includes any friends or family members who are living and sleeping there most of the time.
So what if I have a visitor at my residence on April 1st?
Whether to count a visitor depends on the type of visitor. Visitors who are in your home on April 1st, 2020, but who will return to their normal residence should be counted where they live and sleep most of the time. Residents of foreign countries who are visiting the United States on vacation or business on April 1st, 2020 should not be counted.
What if I or someone living at my residence is not a citizen of the United States?
Citizens of foreign countries who are living in the United States, including members of the diplomatic community, should be counted at the U.S. residence where they live and sleep most of the time. Citizens of foreign countries who are visiting the United States on vacation or business on April 1st, 2020 should not be counted.
So let's talk about some special circumstances that people might encounter. For instance, what if I have a family member who is away at school?
Well, college students who are living at home should be counted at their home. College students who live away from home will be counted at the on or off-campus residence where they live and sleep most of the time, even if they are at home on April 1st, 2020. The U.S. Census Bureau is working with colleges to count students living in dorms. U.S. college students who are living and attending colleges outside of the United States are not counted in the census. Foreign students living and attending college in the United States should be counted at the on or off-campus residence where they live and sleep most of the time. Finally, students below the college level living at boarding schools should be counted at the home of their parent or guardian.
And if a family member is in a healthcare facility or in the hospital?
patients in hospitals for routine stays, patients in Department of Veteran Affairs hospitals except for psychiatric units, patients in inpatient hospice facilities, and newborn babies should be counted at the residence where they live and sleep most of the time, rather than at the facility. However, patients with no usual home, people in psychiatric hospitals or psychiatric units for long-term care, non-acute care, and people in nursing homes should be counted at the healthcare facility they are staying at on April 1st, 2020.
With the sub-base here in Groton, we have very large military personnel. So what if I'm military or if I've just been stationed here? Do I get counted?
Absolutely. People who live in housing units and military installations will be able to respond to the 2020 census online, by phone, or by mail, just like those who live outside military installations. The Census Bureau will ensure that military personnel who live in places such as barracks or military campgrounds are all counted in much the same way that the Census Bureau counts others living in group quarters, such as students in university housing. Please visit Counting People in Group Living Arrangements for more information. Military personnel who are temporarily deployed overseas should be counted at their usual home address in the United States.
And currently we have Adam Wright, who is working with the commander of the base to ensure that every sailor is counted, whether they are deployed, living on base, or their dependents, and they're living with their dependents at Navy housing. So right now, that is one place that has really been focused on making sure our sailors and our military community is counted.
So April 1st comes along and I'm supposed to be moving. What do I do?
People who are moving should count themselves just once in one home. If they move into their new residence on April 1st, they should count themselves at that residence. If they move out of their old residence on April 1st, but have not yet moved into their new residence, they should count themselves in their old home.
What if I'm a renter?
Please be counted. You are needed. Remember, the participation notification is sent to the address, not the individuals living there. So as a renter, you will use the unique census ID to participate, making sure to count every person living or staying at that address on April 1st, 2020.
What if I live in a hotel or some other transitory location?
If you're living or staying in a hotel, a campground, a recreational vehicle park, a marina, or other transitory location, the Census Bureau has a special process for how you should respond to the 2020 census. Census takers will visit each transitory location at a scheduled time between April 9th and May 4th, 2020, to conduct interviews with individuals who occupied units using the paper questionnaire.
What happens if I don't participate?
If a household has not participated in the 2020 census, either online, by phone, or paper form, by late April, the U.S. Census Bureau will send a reminder postcard. Then, beginning in May through July, trained census takers will visit those addresses who have not provided a census response. These census takers will make repeated visits to get information. Remember, these responses are important for the local communities.
So how are people going to be notified to respond to the 2020 census?
So beginning in mid-March, you will receive an invitation in the mail to participate in the 2020 census. Remember, that invitation is being mailed to an address. It will not be addressed to any one person in particular, so be careful not to throw it away. Most of these will say, be addressed to resident, so please be careful. The invitation will include a unique 12-digit census number that you will use. This links your responses with your residents. You will use this whether you respond online, by phone, or by paper form.
And I believe we have a sample letter. Again, it's a little blurry, but you can see the insignia for the Census 2020, and you can see where that unique 12-digit ID will be located. So as Liz said, this may be addressed to resident. Please don't throw it away. It does contain important information that you will need in your response. I believe we also have a screenshot of some of the important dates that are related to the whole notification. Great, thank you. And continuing, Keith?
If by the end of April you have not used one of the 3 ways to respond to the census, census takers will begin visiting those homes to make sure everyone is counted. These visits will begin in May and run through the end of July. Census takers could make return visits to get their counts completed. Your response is that important.
How are people actually going to respond? We talked about, you mentioned online, by phone, by questionnaire. How is that going to happen?
So you're taking this census is quite easy. So first of all, you're going to get your invitation in the mail. You can decide at that time to go online to answer your questions online. You may use the phone number and call directly there, get it over with. Or you may wait for the traditional paper form. Each address will receive a mailed invitation containing that unique 12-digit census ID number. And that links your address to the responses about the occupants of this area. This unique census ID is just that, unique to the address it was mailed to. You cannot use somebody else's census ID. If you choose to use the online response method, you will log on to the web address that is included in the notification. The program prompts you to enter your unique 12-digit number, census ID number. If you lose the ID number, don't worry. You can, on the login page, you can select the link under the login button that says, if you do not have a census ID, click here. It's important to note that you will need to complete the online form in one sitting. If you leave the site before completing the census, you will have to start all over again.
And we have a screenshot of what that opening online frame looks like. And you can see the 3 boxes where you're going to put that unique code. And as Liz mentioned, if you do happen to lose your code, not to worry, you will just click the highlighted blue. If you do not have a census ID, click here. And you'll be able to look up your census ID and then proceed. So our ID is logged in. Now what?
Once you log in, you'll be asked to confirm the address. Then follow the prompts asking about the people living at the address. These will include name, age, date of birth, race and origin, Hispanic origin, relationship to the reference person, gender, how long they've lived at the address, and if they sometimes stay at another address. The online questionnaire is available in English and 12 other languages. If you choose the phone method, the telephone number will be provided in the invitation. That unique census ID is still needed. You will speak to a live census taker who will record your responses about the people living at the address as of April 1st, 2020.
Also, on April 1st, 2020, Census Day, Groton Libraries will host a census kickoff aimed at supporting participation in the census. Computers will be available for people to use to take the census. Technical support will be available to help you get online or answer questions about the census. But please know that neither the library staff or members of the Groton Complete Count Committee can help you with your responses.
And at this time, we're going to take our final public service announcement break. And the video we have for you is How Do I Take the 2020 Census?
How do I take the 2020 census? In March 2020, every address in the country will receive an invitation to complete a simple questionnaire. And there are 3 ways to respond. Number 1, do it online. Number 2, call by phone. Number 3, send it by mail. For those who don't respond, a census taker from your community will follow up and assist you. Shape your future. Start here. Visit 2020census.gov.
Liz, as we wrap up our program, can you tell us what steps the committee has been taking to increase awareness?
Well, the committee has been very busy, very active. We've been meeting, like I said, since September, and we have been learning about the census and designing strategies to get the word out about the ease, safety, and importance of the census. Viewers have or will be seeing informational posters, flyers, and brochures around town, in banks, grocery stores, doctor's offices, daycare centers, just to name a few places. Groton Public Schools is also supporting this by posting information on their websites about the census and its impacts in school. And we're hoping that reminders will be put up on the marquee stating in our local phrase, count everyone because everyone counts. Our message is that the census is easy and safe to take, and we can't stress enough just how important it is for you to respond, for you to be counted. Again, please don't forget about the Census Day at the Groton Public Library, the Bill Memorial Library, and the Mystic Noank Library. They will each be hosting a census kickoff on April 1st at their facilities. Computers and technical help will be provided all day, and to anyone who needs help completing their census form. Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to thank Southeastern Connecticut Television for their expertise and technical support in making this program possible. We'd also like to thank the members of the Groton Town and Groton City Complete the Count Committee for volunteering to take on this very important civic responsibility. We ask that you please do your civic duty and be counted. The census website and the Groton Census Facebook page information will be displayed for you at the end of this recording. Thank you for watching. Please be counted.